All right, are we recording? I think it is. I can't see the recording thing anymore. But anyway, all right.
Yep, it's recording.
Yes, hello everyone. We know what we're doing. It is September 14th. Welcome to Kubernetes Steering Committee. I am Paris Pittman. I will hopefully lead this ship for us in a forward motion for the next at least 50 minutes. All right, and steering committee members, I think everybody's name's down in the attendee list, and it looks like we actually do have some community members with us today. Community members, if you are here to just listen, that's cool. If you're here because you'd like to speak on a topic, feel free to pop that into either chat or into the doc, and I'll make sure that there's time for you. Are there any steering committee, let's kick this off. Are there any steering committee election officers on the phone that want to do any kind of update? Josh gave a written one, so I just wanted to know if there's anybody that wants to do a live one. All right.
I'm one of the election officers, but I don't have any major updates yet. So we're going with the election, and we'll make the email announcement by tomorrow.
So announcement is tomorrow for ballots?
Yep.
Okay. Yep, that was the Josh email that I got written as well. So I guess the festivities are going to be starting shortly. So get your engines ready, I guess is the appropriate term, maybe. I don't know. All right. Next is our Cncf update section. It looks like, I think Dims, you probably snuck that one in there. Dims, do you want to comment on rotating folks on the governing board?
Yeah, so there are two developer-oriented seats on the GB. One is from Kubernetes, the other one is from the rest of the community. So the rest of the community elected Matt last time, I think, Matt Klein, and we nominated who's on ours? Michelle, yes, Nurali. Yeah, Michelle was representing before, and then we continued her even after she rotated out of the steering committee. So the language that says right now is either existing steering committee or past steering committee. One of those people can be nominated to represent us. So I open an issue there because I felt like we should talk about it a little bit to see who would do it next and when it is going to be. And Michelle is going to rotate out in December. So we need to pick somebody as our next one. So there was some discussion on that issue. Please take a look. CRA mentioned that maybe we should have a chair here in steering committee, and the chair could automatically be part of the GB. So there were some choices over there. So the point here is we need to get our act together by December so we could nominate somebody when the slot opens up.
Comments? Aaron, it looked like you had one.
Yeah, I agree. We should get our acts together, and I would be interested in helping out with this. So we can chat about it offline. I'm really glad you brought it up, Dims.
I didn't hear the last part of what you said. Did you say you were interested? I'm sorry.
Might be. I'm still thinking it over. I know I would qualify as current or emeritus.
Yeah, and the thing also is, like, if more than one people are interested, then what happens, right? So we should make sure that we have a process in place to say, to ask people for who's interested, and then figure out what to do with that information. And it doesn't have to be, we don't have to write down explicit instructions to say that, oh, we're going to have a CIVS based election or something like that. It could be just the existing steering members taking a vote on a call. Should be simple enough. And my personal view is that, I don't want to see a chair for our steering committee. And I definitely don't want the chair to do WT here as well as on the GB. That would just be too much. But that's my personal opinion.
Christoph or Derek?
Yeah, I agree with Dims. I don't really want to see a chair. I don't think that really aligns with our kind of like consensus-based process. And the fact that we kind of like rotate around a boson is one of the endearing things about what we do in steering. So I prefer that kind of model. And I don't think we need somebody to do just, by accepting this role, you are automatically also committing to being on the GB as well. I don't think that necessarily works for us. I don't know. I actually see the benefits of having something codified and doing like a CIBS ballot if we have more than one nominee. If we have only one nominee, there's no point to running a ballot. But if we have more than one nominee, doing a CIBS ballot similarly to how we do code conduct committee elections, where the electors in that are basically the 7 steering committee members, and then they appoint somebody for 2 years. Again, I see the benefits of that formal process being that if the GB developer seat is a 2-year seat, you are deciding not only for the current steering committee, but next year's steering committee who is going to be on that seat. So having it be a little bit more formalized might not be a bad thing.
Yeah, the only other twist to here that I was wanting to check with you all is like, how do we ping the previous steering committee members for any interest? Because by default, all of us are going to be on a call and we'll say, okay, are you interested? We'll do that dance here, but how do we go ping previous steering committee members? That was the only twist there.
It sounds like you're going to email them. No, no, I don't know. I guess just email. Do we even? I wonder. Should we even have some kind of emeritus list? Is that
we have one? I think it's in our.
I mean, I guess that everybody's on steering. So I guess
the public list. I was going to say.
Right.
Like
yeah.
we don't remove anyone from the public list, even
right.
once you're not on steering anymore.
Right. You'd have to remove yourself. Yeah. So. I guess just like a public notice to steering then would be good of who's interested, and then maybe we just run ballots if we have more than one. And I guess like what's December or so, I guess we would really need to get our act together. I guess we should like at least have a call within the next 30 days. So by the next public meeting, we'll have our call together. Is that fair? All right. All right, I see chat blowing up too. Sorry, y'all. All right, that's fine. Okay. All right, anybody else have anything with Cncf related? Anything and everything under the sun? Eeyore, do you have any updates? Any comings, goings? All
no,
quiet.
Nothing yet.
All quiet on the Cncf front.
There were 2 requests to Eeyore, one for AWS credits. Both of them got handled, I think.
Are you speaking about the Minikube and about the cluster API project?
That's right.
Yeah, so they're both handled. So I've granted an access to Minikube maintainers last week and to cluster API maintainers around an hour. So if they confirm that everything is working, we can close the issues on the project board from GitHub.
Yeah, I will ping both of them to let you know. Thank you.
Perfect.
There was high-level discussion in the last contributor strategy meeting about reshaping maintainer activities for a virtual KubeCon, because right now we are asking maintainers to do a lot of work, including the maintainer pavilion, which is like the show and tell for your project, the intro deep dive for their SIG or project, their company talk, the Meet the Maintainer AMA, and then like random contributor summit stuff. It's like a lot of activities pretty much. So there was high level discussion about reshaping that, what that looks like. Should we have a CNCF contributor summit? Things like that. So if that is interesting combo to you, join the topic at our next meeting. And then that goes into the steering session at KubeCon. I think it sounds like everybody in chat was a +1 on skipping this one. Nikita?
Sorry. Yeah, so like Lucky's, this was a private steering chat. So Lucky started a thread. I'm not sure if everyone got notified because it was a thread. He couldn't make it, but I just wanted to make sure his point of view was also represented. So he was a big +1 to having the session at KubeCon, mainly because it's the biggest Kubernetes event, and having steering have a presence in that event would hold weight, and also show that we care for the community and we're there, we're present. And we could also change the format a bit because we didn't have too much engagement with our current format in the virtual conference. So that's something we could be doing too, but he really wanted it there, and I kind of agree with that. I mean, I don't have strong opinions on like skipping it versus not skipping it, but it looks like it might be worthwhile just to have a session if it's not that big of a deal. What do folks think?
I think my main point there was like engagement, right? How do we engage people? How do we get them to ask questions rather than it's a one-way presentation from us, which was mostly what happened last time, because we didn't get enough interaction. Like the one last year, which was live, that was a really back and forth kind of event, and we couldn't have that on the virtual side. So that's my main concern. I mean, we should show up, I guess, but then what do we do there is the question.
What if we teach people something? I don't know, or like do a talk about something that we've learned. A retrospective. I don't know, just an idea.
So basically,
Yeah.
That means we want to tell them yes, and we'll figure out what to do with the slot later, right? But then we don't have much time.
I feel like our worst.
Well, yes. Well, technically, I'd like to call out that technically the deadline for this was yesterday. So we're already over the deadline, and I have concerns about us like just taking up a slot if we don't have a plan. Yeah.
All right, so can we do some kind of a quick vote right now? Dims, I see your head first. So +1 means have something. -1 means no. 0 means figure it out for the next few hours.
-1.
Christoph?
-1.
-1.
Is it -1?
Aaron, -1. Nikita?
I'm +1, but it looks like -1 is the majority.
You don't stage your vote.
And Derek?
Hey, I'm kind of neutral on it, honestly.
Oh, we got 0. Okay, I'm also a 0, by the way. Like, I feel like we're all like just now thinking about this, and I'm like, give me a couple more minutes to marinate in it, you know? Like, you know, let me go eat some lunch. Get some protein. But hold on, we have 4 -1, so I feel like that's our majority, right?
Lucky would be, okay, yeah. I
Well,
was
no,
going to
Lucky
say
would be a
Lucky was a
+1.
very
Lucky
strong
was a
+1.
Yeah, no, Lucky was a +1. So we had the 2 +1s, 2 zeros, and 3 -1s. That's our vote.
I think what I'm wondering is like, is there any way, given the virtualized format, that we could run the session differently that would make it like not neutral on my part? And I, like you, Paris, I don't think I've reflected on that well enough. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious what others feel. I mean, I thought we did a good session for what we had afforded to us, but I'm not sure running the same style session back-to-back virtual is as interesting.
Yeah.
And we'll be taking up one slot while there's so many people get rejected for talks, right? So that's there too.
I'm a -1. I'm okay with like holding off the decision for like a day or two if people want to think about ideas and stuff. And if we come up with something, I can definitely be swayed.
All right.
Same with me.
So we have 24 hours, Nikita. Get in my DMs. All right. Next. Working group report wrap up. However, I know some of them are just starting, so wrap up / kickoff. We'll call this section of the meeting. I'll go first because I'm selfish. Working group data protection. I sent that to the steering private today for everybody to look at. Good group. Working group security audit is supposedly turning down. TBD on live developments there. Derek, what about you?
Well, Paris, I want to thank you for sending such a nice templated Google Doc out, because I took that this morning and kicked the process off with the IoT and Edge working group, because obviously I was delinquent on that. So hopefully we'll get a speedy response, and I'll look to attend the next meeting.
And then Nikita, what's up with your folks?
So I've reached out to the working group Kates and leads, 2 of which are here.
Aaron, and I'm like,
I'll also mention this in their meeting on Wednesday. So we'll get it done. I mean, I'm not too concerned about the working group because it's been going well, but we'll get it done.
So the next one is mine. So the LTS, I poked them. They want to wind down. So we'll start the process of the LTS group showing up in SIG release and talking to them about giving them an update on what worked, what didn't work, that kind of stuff. And then they'll start filing the paperwork for winding things down.
Winding them down. Christoph?
Component Standard has sent in their report. I still need to review it, and I am delinquent on that. Policy, I'm still having issues with communicating with policy, but I'm hopeful that I will get some more radio signal from them soon.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I just sent y'all the data protection group without doing a thorough review. So if you want to chuck over Component Standard, I'm sure nobody's gonna be mad at you. They will be mad at me first. All right, cool. Aaron, what's up with you?
The naming work group we decided was too new to go through this process, and the machine learning work group has decided to retire, and are going through that process now.
And then is there, did we decide that API expressions was technically too new? Who's covering them? I can't remember. I feel like there's other working groups. I'm like, what are we missing? I'll obviously pull up a list. So it looks like we're gonna have at least one plus Derek's. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Aaron, what?
Locky has API expression and multi-tenant.
That's right, Locky. Locky's not here, duh. Thank you, hold on, Locky. All right, thank you. So I was like, we're short. That's how you know you're just like way too close to the data. You're just like, we're short. And then anybody else have anything before we did a quick project board wrap up?
So is the intent for this steering committee to have a review of all of the working group reports, or to save that for the next steering committee?
Let's save that for the next private steering committee meeting. And then we'll,
what I'm asking is, should we all prepare to discuss this during the private steering committee meeting?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Derek, do you feel like IoT and Edge might have theirs done in 2 weeks, or do you feel like they'll need like a full 30 days?
Too early to say. But
so
my memory's failing me right now in the next meeting. Let me go see if it's in the next 2 weeks.
The private meeting is currently scheduled for next week.
Okay. All right. Probably won't make, I mean, we can review what we have in the next private for sure. Josh, I've got you. Hold on one sec. We can definitely review, I feel like working group data protection, let's prepare to review. Christoph, let's try to prepare to review the component standard. And then let's make sure that the working groups that are winding down have it officially turned down by next private meeting. Is that fair for everybody? All right. So then we'll have like more clean slate there. All right, Josh came on camera. Josh, do you have something? We did talk about how the ballots were going out today. Anything else?
Yeah. We started emailing out the ballots. For people who aren't aware of the process, it'll actually take 2 full days to get all the ballots out that we can get out. And then at that point, we'll discover probably around 50 to 100 voters we don't actually have any valid email for. And that'll go in Kubernetes dev in hopes that they identify themselves. In the meantime, 2 people have already voted, so that's our status. I would like to have, I'd like to schedule the elections committee retro together with some members of the steering committee, because the elections committee will dissolve after this election. And so it'll be up to the steering committee to carry forward any issues that need to get taken care of in the next 7 months before we start with a new elections committee.
Yeah, we were clearly not good at that the last time. So we want to make sure we button that process up on nicely.
Yep. Anyway, look, I'll send an email trying to schedule that.
Yeah. What about either a already private meeting that we have in October? Maybe like with the new steering committee members too. It'll be like new and old retro. What do you think? Anybody? +1, -1?
Works for me.
All right. Just no, I'm in the no noon meetings mindset. So. All right. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, steering committee officers.
Just a shout out. I had to do this and it took 2 days. So Josh, thank you very much. We all owe you like a pint of whatever you drink or whatever thing you got going on.
Thanks. The other thing, by the way, if people haven't followed in the issues, is that we're going to try to put together an intern project to replace this whole super labor intensive mechanism of sending out ballots, because this is really not a good thing.
No. All right, thanks y'all so much. Last call from anybody else for topics before we do a project boardwalk really quick. And can you see the project board? Because I think I might only be sharing my one tab.
We
Or do you
can.
see,
Yep.
do you see my notes?
Can see it.
Yes. All right, technology's on my side today. All right, Nikita, why don't you want to board triage us here? This was Nikita's doing.
I just
Like-
added issues onto the board. I haven't really triaged, like opened the project board and seen.
All right, so I'll do it right now. All right, let's do. All right, so we've got stuff in progress. Actually, the AWS stuff is done now, DIMS, right? And this is done.
Let's double check with folks, but from the Cncf side, we did it. So
Okay, cool.
if people are satisfied who have requested it, we can close it.
Ihor, they usually complain really quickly if it doesn't work. So if I don't hear from them, I assume it's good.
Yeah, at least so they've been granted with the access, so it was their original request. If they have any issues with utilizing the technology later, so they can create a dedicated request, just reach out to me directly. But funding wise, both questions are solved, so we can probably close them.
Dare we ask about Kubernetes Incubator?
I can actually update that. So we have one repo left. We have a plan for them, and they have a deadline to finish doing the things that they need to do to move out by the end of September. So as of October 1st, we should be able to completely resolve this one and deprecate Incubator.
Very good, y'all. Congratulations on the milestone. All right. All right, now we've got a lot in the backlog and a lot in the inbox. So let's actually go through the inbox really quick. Looks like broken link, and how did that get in here? Yeah, current community infra and G Suite stuff. We actually kicked this, I think, to contributor experience, if I recall correctly, didn't we, Dims? The last time with like setting up stuff. Wasn't that the deal? I can't remember.
Yeah,
There's
that's
the-
what I remember as well. That we did the mailing list things, but if you wanted to do something else, then people can start asking us, and then we'll try to automate it if the volume is high, I guess.
Yeah, and that issue is mainly just documentation of who does what, when, where, why with G Suite. And then also a couple more issues, but this one's old. What are we doing with this one? Clarify and improve how we identify and close staffing gaps across the project.
I feel we need to get back to this as part of the review process, annual reports, and then we'll have to figure out how to request help from CNCF or end user community or other places to help staff things. So right now we've been doing ad hoc, like for example, the Signode one, we went around asking people saying, okay, can you send more people to Signode, right? So we were doing that on an ad hoc basis, but then we'll have to do something proactively, send people a list up the chain to the governing body or something like that. Yeah, we'll have to figure those things out. But the idea here is like use the annual reports to come up with a list of things that we need to do. Test and try is definitely always a big thing that we want to ask people, and it's usually underfunded. That's just an example.
When can we close this issue then? Because it just sounds so ongoing. I'm wondering if breaking this down with annual reports and then, I don't know, another issue of variety. Anybody else have any comments on this? Aaron, it looked like you were going to speak for 1 second.
This issue doesn't say close staffing gaps. It just says clarify how we identify close staffing gaps. So if annual reports are how we do this, we should document that. If we feel it needs improvement, we should describe what needs improvement. But I feel like if this was part of what annual reports were about, we would document how annual reports are going to be used for this.
Okay,
That's fair.
and that's fair. And we can do that. I mean, we're gonna try it anyway. I don't know if it's gonna work, but all right. And then a core infrastructure initiative for Kubernetes. Dims, this is you.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at it since then. Probably low priority at this point.
Should we make it frozen? It already is frozen.
It is frozen.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about it right now.
And then this is another one that's been out there for a while, and this is an Aaron one. Before you leave us, are we formalizing the concept of sub-projects? You're sighing on mute, or I just can't hear the sighs.
Can't hear it over the sound of my laptop fan. Reached epic sigh proportions. So the reason it's frozen is I think there are legitimate concerns that specifying a sub-project by way of a bunch of random owners files does not make it clear who the point people are for a given sub-project. It would be really great to find a better, more unifying way of answering that, either by having automation, pull the names together and document that in the same way that we put like chairs and tech leads in the READMEs, or through the use of something like GitHub Teams or something. But I think there's a lot more detail in the issue comments if you click through about why that's still open. I sort of view it as contributor experience is the SIG that owns it. And if contributor experience thinks that the experience of like sub-projects as they exist today is sufficient, then that's great. But I think there are lots of legitimate complaints about sub-projects. I also think that nobody has had the time or priority to act on this. So maybe that's a symptom that it's like, is it good enough or is it a risk? Like, is there too much ambiguity that allows negative behavior to sneak through? I don't know. I have a harder time driving this one down to a finer scope. What do other people think?
I'm wondering if we should hold on this until we see the output of the working group review. Just because I feel like there are some working groups that are actually owning code repos, if I'm not mistaken, when that should have made it a sub-project, but maybe we should just audit this as an outcome of that working group review.
Okay.
+1 to kick the can.
Can kickers. All right. Let's see. That's more pruning and shuffling of GitHub orgs. These are just rotten as hell, y'all. Process support, guess we don't need that for a while. I would fix root owners.
Yeah, I think we can close this out for now. There's been sufficient conversation generated, multiple email threads. And we cleaned it up also.
Approval plugins. I think this is the approval, granular approval. Maybe this should learn test infra, though, but it's currently being worked on. Like, we're discussing that in ContribuX. So I'll close this and I'll move it to test infra.
Yes, kicking the can. Yes. All right. And then, all right. So I'll do this one. This one needs an update. This is just talking about where we are in the working group process. And that's pretty much closed at this point, I think anyway. Incubator in favor of Kubernetes SIGs. I think isn't that like the same issue as end of life Kubernetes Incubator? What's the difference between this one and the other one?
I think if you click through on the issue, you'll see one is about actually removing references to incubator everywhere. I'm guessing.
They were opened in 2 different repositories too.
Large trail of one.
March 2018. I mean, it was spoken.
All right, so what do we want to do with this one?
I guess we can close out the steering one and keep this one because GitHub management and ContribuX on it anyway, and we update steering when it gets done.
Dims. Second, and then defining and scoping the term member. I think a lot of this was done, but not all of it. This was, yes, we did this one. Like this is where we were uncoupling chair and tech lead and some project ownership from the one and the term member from that as well. But we never I don't think we ever talked about like community membership versus like GitHub org membership, and is that the same thing? Looking at the open-ended questions as well. Yes, that's the other thing. Like, and if a SIG does, and this is a case in point, if a SIG wants to hold an election, who's their membership, right? Like what, and that's their, like, the SIG is free to do any kind of election that they choose, no matter like if it's for a role or for like to get a pulse, right? So it's like who's their membership body at that point? Thoughts?
I think there was some thoughts if we scroll down, but I can't remember what I did.
This one, I think Aaron's comment was like shoring up what we already like uncoupled from like the chair and tech lead thing. And then what did you say here, Nikita?
Would it make sense to maybe just remove the lifecycle state label and bring this as a proper discussion point in the next meeting?
Yeah. So the one thought I had here is, you know, while we were thinking about the app for elections where they log in using their GitHub ID and they can vote. So in the same process, if people can select which SIGs they are member of, right? It's a self-selection rather than, you know, self-identifying, right? I would say I'm a member of SIG testing and node, but not SIG Windows, right? So I would go in and say that I'm interested in these things. So then we can use that data to form the list of members. I want it to be an explicit action by somebody to say I am part of this or I'm no longer part of this, rather than going through the mailing list as a criteria, or looking through owners' files as a criteria, or something like that.
Other thoughts? Or a +1 to DIMS, or other suggestions?
I can kind of write it up and then we'll talk about it next time. We don't have to decide right now.
So DIMS's suggestion is explicit consent for membership. Okay.
Right. So a lot of people feel really good when they say, okay, I got org membership, and they celebrate it, right? So this is another way of them taking charge of their own participation in the community, I feel.
All right. Anybody else have anything else on this topic, or DIMS is gonna write something out? Aaron, I don't know if you're yawning or.
Like, there are a lot of checkboxes at the top of this. It's not clear to me whether DIMS is proposing, like, whether we're proposing, yes, all these checkboxes are still valid and we should resolve all of them, or do we think that DIMS's proposal will resolve some of these? Do we think we should get rid of some of these checkboxes because they are no longer relevant? Or are we punting resolution of these checkboxes, or whether there should be fewer of them, to a later meeting?
We're punting a lot of it to later meetings. DIMS is taking on at least one of those open-ended questions with it, which is the definition of membership for elections. And that's it. We'll just keep talking about this in upcoming meetings.
Yeah, assign it to me and I'll see whether I can cover anything else with that same thought process.
Yeah.
Ava, do you want to speak up?
Sure, I'm just wasn't intending to speak on the call today, but
Hey.
This is a thing that, hi folks, that I've thought a fair bit about in other contexts. And as I'm skimming the issue, I didn't see it mentioned. If membership is what grants voting rights, and if membership is completely open, democracy is kind of hard to achieve.
So there is one bar, Ava, which is GitHub org membership. So
okay.
we wouldn't open it up to anybody on the internet or anybody on GitHub. So the people who are GitHub org members then can select, and maybe we could have up to 5 or something like that. So I need to think through it a little bit more, but yeah, it's not completely open.
As I look now for that phrase, GitHub org membership, I see it mentioned in the issue. I had keyed in on mailing list membership, which I think is, in my opinion, not a sufficient bar.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Glad you're thinking about it.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's why, like, we talked about the phrase member of standing in the context of the steering committee election, which has an even higher bar of not just org membership, but also a certain number of contributions. The question is whether that is appropriately inclusive when we look at how SIGs decide to make decisions, because we don't actually force or mandate or have a policy that SIGs have to take votes or anything like that. But when we start talking about things in the context of SIG membership, we don't actually have a concrete definition of what a SIG's, like, who a SIG's members are. And amongst all the other checkboxes that are here.
There's a lot. So it sounds like there's sort of a consensus around the idea that mailing list membership does not make you any other kind of member outside of only a mailing list member. Is that correct? Does anybody disagree with that statement?
What about people who are members of a SIG but don't actively contribute to GitHub, but do so via other ways?
Right. So could this notion of SIG membership, could that be pulled from members of a mailing list?
I don't know.
I would suggest no, mostly for technical reasons, because Google doesn't provide an API.
Okay, so nothing about mailing list membership means Kubernetes membership of any variety, correct?
Other than access to the Google Docs, that's the only thing that it provides, yes.
Yes. Only thing it provides is access to GDocs and Calendar.
Also, we say you have to be a member of Kubernetes Dev in order to be a Kubernetes org member, so there is some of this baked in here. I feel uncomfortable making any binding statements about membership policy right now without having given it sufficient thought. I feel like we're kind of in the weeds on what was a walkthrough, just a couple different issues. I think Dim's idea is great, but if we're talking about reviewing our governance and stuff, I think that.
So how about you and I work on it, Aaron? I'll set up a call and let me put some thoughts together before that.
All right, so that checkbox is X'd off. And then if member can, yeah, this has to do with us, I think. And then if it's decided SIG chairs and owners decide their membership definition, where should that be posted and should it be required? Yeah, what do we think about SIGs creating their own, or should we be the one that creates this standard definition? I guess that's kind of where that's the TLDR of that. What do y'all think there?
I'd like to think a bit about this, honestly, and not decide something right now, if that's okay.
Yep. All right, till next meeting, update.
I think the core question, Paris, is like, does membership of a SIG require an active action or a passive presence? And kind of like Nikita, I'm not sure how what if every SIG would say the same thing.
Right. All right. So looks like we are done this one probably, right? As steering committee liaisons. Oh no, actually for committees, I'm sorry. Should we, yes, that was the discussion on this one was, should we have liaisons for committees as well to improve the committee to committee conversation, or no, that's the whole reason why they're committees?
I would say the relevant SIGs have to deal with the committees and not us. And if the committees are not healthy, then I would blame it on the SIGs that are responsible for the work or where they do their work.
Or some other
Code
thought.
of conduct doesn't have a SIG assigned, like, related to it, does it?
Do we have an example?
A committee? It'd be like code of conduct or product security committee.
Yeah, for those, for sure.
Yeah, I guess it's just like, what kind of relationships do we want to have with committees? I guess that's just like the other higher level conversation out of this. Anyway, so yeah, this is something else that I guess we need to think about and weigh in on the issue when you get some time. Oh yes, because I've already heard feedback from a couple of the organizers of working groups and things like that. Some people were saying that it might make more sense to have SIG chairs do the working group annual reports, since they also have to give them status updates and things like that. Any thoughts on this, or do you feel like it's still too young to give thoughts on this because we need more data?
I'd like to see what SIG chairs think of this once SIG chairs have done their own annual reports personally.
I don't know. I've heard this feedback as well, but I'm explicitly like -1 on this because like working groups can have more than one sponsoring SIG. Which SIG is responsible for doing it? and also just in general, the idea that like maybe the problem that the working group is having is a poor relationship with their sponsoring SIG. There would be no way for us to get that feedback, and ultimately I believe steering is like, we're responsible for this type of health, this like type of governance health. So I'm explicitly -1 on this feedback, and I think that the working group should be able to report directly to steering that like, hey, I'm unhealthy and I need some help.
Any +1s?
Is that mandated or is it optional? Like, if they want, they can. If they feel that they're doing fine, then they don't have to, right? Does it matter?
I don't know.
My opinion as it stands, as of today, without any other like arguments going the other direction, is no. I think it would just be every group, whether it's a working group, SIG, user group, everybody who does their annual report into steering, and then there's one path. Everybody knows what's happening, and we're not treating one group differently, unless I put a caveat there, unless there's a compelling reason, which I haven't heard yet, other than like, you know, should SIGs be doing this themselves, and like maybe SIGs wanting more control over their working groups. I don't know. Right now, SIGs don't directly control working groups either. Working groups are independent entities that are sponsored by SIGs, and SIGs are ultimately responsible for the code that working groups develop. But
yeah, let's go with that.
Right. And let's see, I know Nikita and I still have work to do on the term limits. We're going to pair together on that. We'll definitely have a PR by next private meeting, and probably even earlier. And then what's this? Refine rules on exceeding maximal representation for SC election. This is probably a better conversation for post-election, correct? Yes. And then rotating folks, we've already talked about that one. All right, so we're doing good. And we're at time. Hell yeah. Questions, concerns, comments? All right. Well, that ends our show. It's been real. Stop sharing.
All have a great Monday.
I hope you breathe better down the week, Aaron.
I know. Miss y'all.
Yeah. Bye.